William Du Bois was born in 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, to Alfred Du Bois and Mary Sylvina Burghardt. Life wasn't easy for William and his mother. His father, Alfred, left them when William was only 2 years old. This made it necessary for them to move back in with Mary's parents for several years while she worked to support her small family. After suffering a stroke in 1880, Mary died just 5 years later. Du Bois was 16 at the time and left penniless. To make some money and to continue his education, he became a timekeeper at a local mill. He went on to graduate shortly thereafter from Searles High School, where he was the first African American to graduate. After graduation, Du Bois' childhood church helped raise the tuition necessary for him to attend Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. Fisk was a historically black college. During his sophomore year there, Du Bois began teaching school to help further his fund for university studies. Du Bois transferred from Fisk to Harvard, where he earned his bachelor's degree and a doctorate. He was able to do this only by working summer jobs and through scholarships. At Harvard, a particular professor made a significant impact on Du Bois' view of the world. His name was William James, a prominent American philosopher. As the first educator to offer a course in psychology, James was also known as the father of American psychology. After finishing college, he went on to teach at Wilberforce University in Ohio, where he married one of his students. Du Bois and Nina Gomer were married on May 12, 1896. After teaching at Wilberforce, he moved on to Atlanta University. There, he taught history, sociology, and economics. During his time at Atlanta University, he produced a number of academic works, including The Philadelphia Negro in 1899. While writing this book, he did studies on blighted areas and found a population that had terrible health issues and many social ills, such as poverty, high infant mortality, and prostitution. He didn't excuse the African American community entirely. However, he concluded that the leading cause of these issues were because of racism. In 1903, Du Bois published The Souls of Black Folk. This book was unlike any other because it contained poetry, autobiographical sketches, and historical articles, and a memoir. This book was a wide-ranging representation of diversity of the black experience. In 1905, Du Bois founded the Niagara Movement, which was opposed by Booker T. Washington's racial accommodation theory. This organization was a forerunner to the NAACP. Years later, Du Bois was appointed editor of the NAACP magazine, The Crisis. One of the articles featured two things: calls for protest and an attempt to uplift the community. This was at the same time that Du Bois was protesting lynching and race riots. While he continued his work for civil rights, he published his very first novel called The Quest of the Silver Fleece in 1911, and in 1915 he published another book called The Negro. In 1920, Du Bois published the first of 3 biographies, which was entitled Dark Water: Voices from Within the Veil. 15 years later, he published his final 2 biographies, the magnum opus and Black Reconstruction in America. Du Bois elevated the argument that black codes would not change unless they protested. This stirred controversy in the black community, mainly because Frederick Douglass said that the black people needed to wait for the white people to realize that they were wrong. He also opposed another civil rights activist, Booker T. Washington, saying that black people needed the same rights as people instead of just needing help from white people. Du Bois was very verbal about the fact that people needed to show that they deserved rights by going out and protesting. This at first was not very effective, but eventually the black community heard what Du Bois was saying and slowly began to listen. This made some white people very angry because some felt that black people would start running for office and soon take over the country. It was around this time when Du Bois threw his hat in the political ring. Despite his best efforts, he made a losing bid for the New York State Senate at 82 years old in 1950. Slowly, Du Bois was becoming more and more influenced by communism. In May of 1959, he visited the capital of China, which at the time was Beijing. It is thought that this visit only bolstered DuBois' political ideology and most likely solidified his desire to become a communist. He became communist because he felt that Karl Marx, who was widely considered the father of communism, was correct in his ideology and morals. He observed that the American economy and capitalism had become more corrupt. In his view, progress was not being made only because the rich Negroes would begin to gain rights, but not the middle and lower class Negroes. He grasped the idea that the stealing of the black man's ballot was well underway, and those who fought for equal rights were retreating. Du Bois believed that the fight for Negro rights was not just a fight for Negroes to fight, but also support from other ethnic groups and races, including whites. He feels that Negroes were also being discriminated against because of the lack of enforcement on the Constitution. He realized that democracy was failing because of the rapid decline of the number of people attending polls and voting booths. He felt that the American society itself was corrupt because of direct bribery, but emotional influences as well as monopolies, propaganda, and deception. He does, however, acknowledge the fact that socialism would not work because of the simple fact of human nature. He did try to bring Negroes together in socialism, however, and by doing this, he made unreasonable justifications. He did make some reasonable justifications as well, such as paying the same wage to everyone, no matter the color of their skin or basis of their gender. By 1961, Du Bois had taken the plunge, joined the Communist Party, and moved to Ghana. During Du Bois' short-lived time in Ghana, he officially took up the role of editorship of the Encyclopedia Africana. At the old age of 93, Du Bois' legacy was insignificant in Ghana. His argument was not in any state of slowing down, even after he moved to Ghana. There was a movement even when Pan-Africanism was on the verge of a major victory called neocolonialism. This challenged Du Bois' lifelong conception of civil rights. Before he died, he never finished the Encyclopedia Africana. He died there on August 28, 1963. Just 1 year after his death, the Civil Rights Act was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Although Du Bois was not alive when it was signed, he was still a major contributing factor for the passing of the act. As you can see, Du Bois played an important role in the civil rights movement, where his intelligence and influence were his ultimate legacy.